When we move over to Europe, we can see the DAX has been trading lower. We've broken a lot of key levels of support more recently. We're now sitting at another level of support right around this 14,600 region. When we look at the DAX, you can see we're sitting on this new level of support here around 14,600, call it. The DAX has clearly been trending lower. Here's our trend line that really extends back all the way to the high back on July 31st. We've had a couple of tests of that level in the past, and we haven't seen any real ability to move beyond it. The way the DAX sort of looks here is you can see the RSI has moved to the lower end of the range. There is a potential here, I think, for a retest and a revisit of this support region around 14,950 to 15,000. But again, this just looks like a consolidation zone where maybe we bounce around back and forth between, this 14,600 and 15,000 area. At this point, you're not really close enough to the downtrend to really see this act as a meaningful resistance level, and you're really not close enough to support level to potentially have that broken. So I would just watch for some more consolidation in this region. Look at the FTSE again. We're at the lower end of the range here. This has been a big level of support now, 7,300 on the FTSE on several occasions. You could see one, two, three, four, five, 6 times. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 times that we've tested it. This is really just getting to be a very difficult situation to assess because in terms of trying to predict which way it's going to go, clearly, I mean, we have clear levels of support in the 7,250 to 7,300 range. I think at this point you just have to wait to see the FTSE break the 7,250 level to really set up a potential retest to the 7,080 region. Until you get some sort of confirmation which way this thing is going to break, I think you're just pretty much guessing at this point because, again, it seems like the way we've been moving has been very erratic, very directional. It seems like we're just moving up in these straight lines up, straight lines down, and resistance right now is around 74.60, 74.75 or so. Until one of these levels breaks, very hard to tell, I think, at this point, which way this thing is going to ultimately. When we look at the S&P 500, it looks like yesterday we had an ending diagonal triangle based on where futures are trading this morning. This looks like it's possibly going to work out where you can see the futures are trading down. When we just look at the futures, I'm using these right now because I think it gives a better depiction of where we are. You can see that there's a level of resistance right here around 42.12, 42.15. We can also see that there's an uptrend present right now in the futures, which is very close to really breaking. If this uptrend breaks and this support and this resistance at 42.15 holds, then it seems more likely than not you're going to see the S&P 500 futures trade back down to 41.65 or so. This would translate to the S&P 500, trading back down into this region here around 41.40 or so, because again, if we're talking about an S&P 500 that's trading from around 41.97 on the futures, they have about 20 points on the cash. If you start seeing the index trade down to 41.60, you're talking about a cash market that can trade back down to around 41.40, which would take you back to around the origin of this diagonal triangle, or at least wave B of it. And certainly this is again, you have this sort of rising wedge, rising diagonal triangle, which is a bearish pattern, which would suggest you move lower and potentially even refill this gap at 41.15 over the very, very near term. When we look at the NASDAQ 100 futures, it's a similar sort of look where you have this resistance area right now at 14,485 or so. You can see that there's an uptrend in the NASDAQ, but again, you have a little bit further to go here before you really risk breaking that uptrend at this point. When you look at the NDX, it's a similar sort of look to that of the S&P 500, where you have what appears to be this rising diagonal triangle, which would also be suggestive of a move lower. And again, based on where futures are trading this morning, it's looking like there's a good chance that this is going to break. And again, you'd be looking for a gap fill, potentially around 14,175. This is all going to be very dynamic, though, because the data that comes out today is really going to be moving and whipping the market around. This is your resistance level as of today at 14,415, with a break above that level potentially setting up a rally to around 14,555 on the cash market. We'll look at the Dow. Again, a very similar sort of pattern, very similar sort of setup to that of the other indices, with the potential for a gap fill at 32,415. This is your obvious level of resistance around 33,000. Your next level of resistance comes around 33,250 or so. And when we just look at when you look at the Dow future contracts, you can see there appears to also be a reversal pattern that's formed here in the Dow with this diamond shape. Again, the data is going to largely be dependent upon how this sort of plays out. It looks like the pattern may actually already be breaking or pretty close to breaking, and that would also result in a retrace back down to around 32,555 on the futures, which again would probably mean that you're going to see a retrace to the origin here and a gap fill at 32,400 or so.